A cold floor has a strange way of making you notice things. The dust in the corners. The sound of a clock ticking somewhere far away. The silence after people stop pretending everything is normal. I remember lying there, staring at the tiles beneath me, feeling small in a house that had always made me feel smaller. Above me, voices moved around the room like weather I had learned to survive. Always causing problems. Always making things harder. Words I had heard so many times, they no longer sounded like insults. They sounded like background noise, like wallpaper, like gravity. I didn't cry, not because I was strong, because I was tired. Tired of defending myself. Tired of explaining pain to people who treated it like inconvenience. Tired of believing tomorrow would somehow be different. Then the front door opened, and everything changed. Our neighbor had stopped by that evening. He was a doctor in town, the kind of person who always carried a calm smile and spoke softly. He walked into the room expecting an ordinary visit. But sometimes life changes in the space between expectation and reality. Because the second he looked at me, his expression changed. The smile disappeared. His eyes moved from my face to the room, then back to me again. He didn't say anything at first. He just stood there, looking, really looking. And for the first time in years, someone saw what I had spent so much energy hiding. Not pretending, not excusing, not looking away. Seeing. Funny how powerful that can be. Because when you're used to being invisible, being noticed feels almost unreal. The room grew quiet. Suddenly everyone seemed uncomfortable. People who had spent years controlling the story were now standing in front of someone outside it. Someone who wasn't playing along. Someone who wasn't nodding politely. Someone who wasn't accepting explanations wrapped in excuses. He looked at me carefully and said something simple. "Are you okay?" 3 words. That's all. 3 words nobody had sincerely asked me in a very long time. And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. I didn't know how to answer. Because when you've spent years surviving, you stop asking yourself if you're okay. You only ask whether you'll make it through the day. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. So he asked again, softer this time. "Are you okay?" My throat tightened, and I felt it. Not sadness, not fear, hope. Small, fragile, but hope. He stepped closer and quietly made a phone call. I didn't hear every word, but I heard enough. Enough to understand something important. Someone was listening. Really listening. The house suddenly felt different after that. Like truth had entered the room and nobody knew where to put it. People shifted uncomfortably. Voices became quieter. Confidence became uncertainty. Because control only works when silence protects it, and silence had finally broken. I sat there thinking about every moment that brought me here. Every excuse. Every time I convinced myself things weren't that bad. Every time I smiled at school and said I was fine. Every time I looked into a mirror and wondered if maybe I really was the problem. Because that's what happens when you hear the same story long enough. Eventually, you start believing it. You begin carrying labels that were never yours. Too sensitive, too difficult, too emotional, too much. Until one day you realize those labels were never descriptions. They were cages, and I was tired of living inside one. A little later, I stepped outside. The night air felt different. Have you ever noticed how freedom doesn't arrive dramatically? It doesn't always come with fireworks or music. Sometimes freedom feels like taking your first deep breath after holding it for years. I looked up at the sky, stars scattered across darkness, unchanged, steady, waiting. And I realized something. The world outside my pain had kept moving all this time. There were still mornings waiting for me. Still people I hadn't met. Still laughter I hadn't heard. Still versions of myself I hadn't become. Maybe life wasn't ending. Maybe it was beginning. The days that followed weren't easy. Healing never is. People think healing is a straight line. It isn't. It's messy. It's crying over things you thought you already survived. It's waking up exhausted. It's doubting yourself. It's wondering if speaking up was worth it. But healing is also beautiful. It's meeting people who remind you kindness still exists. It's discovering peace where chaos used to live. It's hearing your own laugh and realizing you haven't heard it in months. It's realizing you deserve gentle things. I started rebuilding. Slowly. Very slowly. I learned that safety wasn't just a place. It was a feeling. Safety was drinking coffee in silence without fear. Safety was sleeping through the night. Safety was realizing I didn't need permission to exist comfortably. Months passed. Then one day I was invited to speak at a community event. I almost said no. Standing in front of people terrified me, but fear had already stolen enough years from me. I wasn't giving it more. When I walked onto that stage, my hands shook. I looked out at rows of faces staring back, people waiting, listening. For a moment, I almost forgot what I wanted to say. Then I remembered the girl who used to sit quietly in rooms, hoping someone would notice she was hurting. I remembered every version of me that stayed silent because she thought silence kept peace. And I spoke. I told them this. I spent years believing surviving was enough. The room became still. But surviving isn't living. I swallowed hard. And sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do isn't fighting back. I looked around the room. It's finally believing you deserve better. No dramatic music, no perfect movie ending, just truth, raw and honest. And when I finished, people stood. Applause filled the room, but that wasn't the moment that stayed with me. Afterward, a young girl walked up to me. She looked nervous. She looked like I used to. She hugged me and whispered, "Thank you." I smiled and asked, "For what?" She looked down for a second, then back up, "For saying things I couldn't." And suddenly, I understood something. My story had stopped being only mine. Pain has a strange way of convincing you you're alone, but healing does the opposite. Healing introduces you to people standing in the dark, holding the same pieces of brokenness, and together, somehow, you become light for each other. Today, my apartment has wide windows. Morning sunlight spills across the floor. I keep plants by the kitchen sink. I play music while I cook. Sometimes I dance badly just because I can. Peace lives here now. Not because life became perfect, but because I finally stopped building my life around fear. People sometimes ask me whether I hate the people who hurt me. I don't. Because hate would mean carrying them with me forever, and I've carried enough. Instead, I chose something better. I chose me. I chose healing. I chose peace. Because the greatest victory isn't making people regret losing you. It's building a life so full, so honest, so joyful, that you stop looking back to see who stayed behind. And maybe that's the lesson. Sometimes the people who break you accidentally push you toward the people and the life that finally help you heal. And sometimes the loudest thing you'll ever say is choosing yourself. For the first time in my life, I finally did.